Were you ready to go on the spiritual journey? Were you spiritual before, or were you seeking that?
When I really tap into spirituality and understanding it from somebody who realized what spirituality is and could explain it to me. And that's when a lot of shifts started to happen. My life was not serving me well. I was in a terrible state and I did not want to look at myself. I stopped meeting people because I felt embarrassed of who I had become. I had hit my rock bottom at that point.
So I remember going through those exact moments where I stopped taking photos. I stopped, being active on social media. I stopped posting because I didn't want to be photographed. I didn't want people to look at me. You somehow, you want to become invisible and not be seen.
I was going through various cycles of IVF and failing terribly at it. It was like a big slap on my face.
Did you want kids?
Yes. That is something that I always wanted. I remember holding his hand and I told him, if my God or my teacher or whoever in the universe loves me and is putting me through this challenge again, I will be rewarded for enduring this pain. I have to finish a learning, and this time I want to do it for once and for all. Do you need a tissue?
Do we both need tissues?
I've shared this story a few times, but I've never felt it so emotionally. I think it's your presence or it's our connection, whatever it is, and I'm tearing up. Can we take a break, please?
Hi Charul, welcome to Sustainable Tea with Shreya. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Shreya. It's a pleasure being here.
You're an incredibly successful businesswoman, HR veteran, environmental supporter, YouTuber, keynote speaker, winner of Mrs. UAE International 2021, yes. And of course an Amazon best-selling author.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's 10 other things that you do that I might have missed, and you wear so many hats and you wear them so beautifully. Tell me about how you do it all, and you do it all so well.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. I always say this when everybody goes with the titles that you've mentioned. I feel like a mini celebrity in myself.
You
right?
are. I mean, take full credit for that.
It's been a beautiful journey. There have been a lot of bumps on the road. I sit here looking all glorious and accomplished. But there is beautiful backstories to it. I do not call them bad memories anymore because I'm very grateful for all that has happened, because that is what has allowed me to become who I am. And mind you, the journey isn't over, right? So the challenges continue. I have to win my own battles. And yes, there's a long list of things which is on my vision board, which is what my life should look like in the way I define my life.
Tell me more about what's on your vision board for 2024.
There are a few things. The first, like I was indicating, is offering yourself as a service to community, right? There's so much that each one of us does for our own. And rightfully so. We have a life and we have ambitions for ourselves. But at some point, we have to look at how we can add value to the society which has shaped us to becoming who we are, right? So my focus really is on child education, especially girl child education, sports scholarship. So we have already registered our foundation in India, which is my home country. Yeah. So the foundation is up and running. So it's not just a thought process. We are actually executing it, because that's where the fun lies. That's where the magic is. So the foundation will start to focus on enabling girl child education, starting in India. And then, of course, the world is the playground. But the focus is on India, and providing sports scholarship for students who, cannot afford to go to school, let alone, fulfill their desire of pursuing a sport as a career, right? Other than that, I'm launching something that I will personally deliver is public speaking workshops. These will be public programs. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I would love for you to come and join us as well.
Absolutely. Please take me under your wings.
We'll also be doing workshops on book writing. After I have taken this journey, it has been so rewarding and gratifying personally for me that I want to be able to offer it as a service to others, because there are those hidden pearls of wisdom inside each one of us. Yeah. And anybody who wishes to express should be given the opportunity to do so. So I want to be able to offer them that. So other than everything else I do, these two programs will come out. And last but not the least, I will be launching a podcast, and we will talk more about it.
Love that.
I think, it would not be a podcast. I'm still finding the right word for it. But somewhere where you offer a platform to people, especially decision makers within those big offices, people who sit and decide the fates of millions. I want to be able to tap into that. So yeah, I'll take a pause there.
That's incredible, and I wish you all the success in everything that you're trying to achieve this
Thank you
year,
so
and
much.
I know you'll bring it to fruition. Why is girl child education so important? Why is that a cause that's so close to your heart?
As you continue to grow in your life, Shreya, and I'm sure you have a beautiful story to tell the world as well, and one day I would love to sit and hear that as well. But as you continue to find your path forward, you know your calling, right? You know there is something bigger that you have to do in order to add value. And I use the word carefully because, some people understand it and others, they use it as a slang, the purpose of your life, right? And when I was going through the challenges that I went through various, upheavals, I realized what would give me inner content and satisfaction is to see girls getting the right level of education and having the opportunity to, make it in their life, because so many killed dreams, so many, silent desires, so many unfulfilled, I do not know, visions, right?
Yeah.
And if I can change life of even one child at a time, I think it will be all worth it. So yes, it was not something that I read somewhere, or it's not something that I saw somebody doing, but it was from within. It was the inner calling, the inner child of me who felt, when I do this is what will give me a sense of fulfilling my life's purpose. I don't even know if that's my life purpose. And if anybody who claims they know the life purpose, I would want to go and have a talk with them.
Me too.
But at least it gives me a sense of that fulfillment. And if it is even one step in the right direction, then I'll give it my full shot.
Yeah. Have you read Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates?
No, I haven't.
It talks about how important girl child education is, because you educate a girl, you educate an entire family.
Oh,
and it's
lovely.
supposed to be the number one solution to even solving climate crisis.
There we go.
Because women are at the forefront of it, and they have all the tools and solutions that we need.
Thank you for mentioning it. And I want to bring out something here.
Yeah.
And it's just happening so naturally as we're speaking, right? You should not have to read a book to know what's your calling. Yeah. Right? Now, when you mentioned, I would pick up that book in a heartbeat because I want to read. Yeah. Now I can expand my vision, understanding who spoke about it. But my advice to listeners is, as you're going through your life, as you're going through your challenges, see what lights you up. See what makes you happy without even you doing it. Let alone when you do it, your light will shine. I don't know at what level. But even if the thought of that makes you smile, makes you want to, light yourself up, then it's worth pursuing, right? And then, like you've just given me a direction, right? Things will show up, right? Resources will come up, directions will come, but you have to take that first step.
How do you tap into that light? How do you tap into that knowing and those signs that universe is giving you without ignoring it, without brushing it away?
Look, what I will talk today is my experience, right? And what you will experience will be completely different from mine. So I am very happy to bring about, my story to the table here. But of course, that should not be a benchmark, because spirituality or knowing or calling is not a cookie cutter approach. Like today morning when I was trying to come here, right?
Yeah.
I put the location on GPS. I'm sure you took a different route. You took a different vehicle. I took a different vehicle. I took a different route, but we all got to the same location.
Same point.
So
no matter how you get there.
The point I'm trying to make is there is no single way of knowing where you're going or how you will achieve that. The important part is to move, is to take the action, right? My journey started around 6 years back when I was at my lowest.
What were you going through?
So many things, Shreya. So I was going through some family challenges. I was making career choices which were not working out for me. So I was at the helm of my career. I was the global head of human capital for a very big strategy consulting firm, managing their 42 country operations, over 10,000 employees, living a dream life. And then I decided,
outside.
yeah. But when I sat on the other side of the table and I looked at what I was doing to my life, I was not happy with that, right? So imagine your career is cruising at a very good altitude, and here you're sitting and thinking, no, the engine is not working and the engine will crash. And I thought, my career will crash and burn if I did not re-engineer my product, right?
Yeah.
Which is when I decided to set up the business. And oh my God, oh my Lord. I am so grateful to myself for making that choice, but it came with a very, very, very huge price, right?
What is the price you paid?
Everything in terms of restarting yourself, in terms of challenging your own understanding of who you are and what you want in your life, to putting everything at stake, from you as a brand to your savings to the business decisions and ideas that you have. It's all a huge risk, right?
Yeah.
And that to doing it in not your country, right?
That's the hardest thing.
If anyone, you will understand that, right?
Yeah, that's the hardest thing.
There was a lot that had to be recalibrated to be able to make the right choice. But hand on my heart, and again, whoever claims it otherwise, I would want to talk to them. You cannot ever go 100% right with such changes. It's not meant to be like that, right? Because if you know it all, then there is nothing for you to figure out, and your journey should just end, right? At home, there were some disturbances. Financially, I was hurting because of the choices I was making to leave my job, set up my business. And just then I was diagnosed with a medical condition which required a lot of attention. This was in 2015, so we're talking 8 years back, right? And I found myself rushing within 24 hours of the diagnosis to India, getting into an open stomach surgery. They literally just cut me open like a book, all through my abs, and after that it was very difficult 24 months. Of recovery and healing, not just physically. It was a lot of internal healing that required. So I made my life very difficult. But where I sit today, I'm very grateful for that. Right?
What was that journey like, and what gave you the strength in that moment to change everything around you?
So I will tap into my spiritual side a bit here, because whichever way we want to package it, I think at some point we all need that anchor. And one of the workshops I do for people and for my clients, corporates, is the 3A workshop, right? Where we speak about awareness, alignment, and anchoring, right?
Awareness, alignment, and anchoring.
And then when I started to be aware and started to align myself, and I'm so grateful, that anchor arrived, which is in the form of my spiritual teacher.
Were you ready to go on the spiritual journey? Were you spiritual before, or were you seeking that?
Wow, that's a very deep question. You see, Shreya, I was always spiritual. Now when I look back, right? I grew up in a household where I would wake up to the smell of the Havan essence, the spiritual fire that we light in the house, right? Yeah. My grandmother used to do that fire ceremony every morning. When I was 3 years old, my mother tells me I was reciting Hanuman Chalisa, back of my hand, right? So I grew up like that. I thought getting up in the morning and, purifying yourself and doing a prayer, offering a prayer, was spirituality. And by thinking and doing that, we're not even scratching the surface of understanding a subject as big as spirituality.
Was that performative, practicing those rituals? Was that more of a performance than an actual practice?
At the time when I was doing it, it felt right. And I did it because I did not know any other way, right? It's like, somebody told you that sitting like this, doing a podcast is the best way of recording. Right? And you're following it till one day somebody will come with those invisible AI-enabled microphones or whatever, or a chip that goes into your ear, and that will become the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So you do it because you do not know better, right? And I did it because I did not know better. And also because it made me feel good. It gave me peace. It gave me tranquility in the morning. But as I continue to progress and as I continue to explore this dimension called spirituality, I realized that spirituality how I understand it now, Shreya, in one sentence, is if you can be a 100% present in the moment, doing what you want to do in that moment, that for me is spirituality. So if I'm here with you, thank you. If I'm here with you and Shreya is 100% here and Charul is a 100% here, and they are creating this beautiful podcast where they're 100% vested, that for me is a spiritual experience.
I've never heard anyone define it that way.
Okay.
That's beautiful. But you mean giving your 100% to anything that you're doing in the moment, whether that's your calling, whether that's your purpose, whether that's your work, you being present in the moment is a spiritual experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, people say, oh, I meditate. It's like, oh, I breathe. Can you breathe? No, it happens naturally. So you cannot meditate. Meditation happens. All you have to do is you have to be 100% in that state and it will happen, right? So, and I'm sitting here looking all righteous and giving you all this gyan, I call it, right? Is all thanks to, so going back to the story, right? Is when my teacher, my spiritual guru, my master appeared. Now, when I say appeared, it's not like I had to go to a cave and he was levitating somewhere. No, it was none of that. He's known by the name Maitreya Dadashriji, and he lives in India. He's a doctor by profession, a qualified doctor, and he runs an organization called Maitri Bodh Parivar, which is a family of friends.
Family of friends.
Yes. And his purpose is to not form a cult or a followership, but to give you enough wisdom that you're connected with your source and that you are empowered within yourself. So if you need help, you're not going looking outside.
You're looking internally.
You find it within yourself. And we all have that, right? So his teachings allow you to tap into that. So yeah, again, all the glorious story right now. Oh my God, the experiences, anubhav, we call it, anubhav in Hindi, right? Is your own journey of understanding who you are, has been nothing short of where this book comes in, right? So he appeared, or let's say his name got introduced to me in 2017, Shreya. So it was at the time when all that background was happening, which I shared.
Yeah. Do you call that your rock bottom in a way?
Yeah, and I always said how Mel Robbins describes it, right?
Oh,
When
I love
you
Mel
hit your
Robbins.
yeah, me too. There are some very interesting, beautiful day-to-day things that she creates, almost like a spiritual experience, right?
Yeah.
So she says, when you hit your rock bottom, you know you've found something solid inside.
Oh, love that. Mel Robbins magic again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had hit my rock bottom at that point, and you know, my life is an open book. I was after that surgery. I still don't have babies, and at that time it was like a big slap on my face. You know, on my.
Did you want kids?
Yes. That is something that I always wanted and dreamt of, right? And my life was not serving me well, and I was fighting myself for it, right? I was angry, I felt like a victim, I felt deprived, and I wanted to give it back to my life, forgetting it's my own life and it's just me.
Yeah.
So I was going through various cycles of IVF and failing terribly at it, right? And screwing my body in turn, and it was all a mess. And this was my last attempt at IVF, and I was very heartbroken, and I was not in a happy place, yeah. And the doctors and me, we kind of had a rapport, and we understood what was happening. So after this last blood test, this was in Dubai, and my throat still dries up saying that. So excuse me. She said, "Oh yeah, your blood tests have come in, but you have to come to the clinic for me to talk about it." And I knew if she's calling me to the clinic is because she doesn't want to break it to me over the phone because it will be too hard and whatever. So I knew what the outcome was. I went to the clinic any which ways. She broke the news, which was negative. I was like that inconsolable child. I was weeping like a little girl in my car. And that was the day when I told my husband I just wanted to deal with it myself. So I drove alone, and I left the clinic. I was I was literally sobbing and weeping, and I was driving just randomly, right? I don't advise anybody to do it, but I was doing it that day. And there came a point where my eyes were hurting and they were red and I could not even see clearly. And I said, let me just stop, gather myself, and then I'll drive back home. At that point, Shreya, as well, I was going through, a point of, rediscovering myself, that alignment was happening at some level.
Yeah.
So I would go on Facebook and I would say yes to every event. If there was a yoga event happening anywhere, meditation happening anywhere,
Yeah.
girls coming together, drinking cocoa. I was just finding myself, right? So I was parked in this random place and my phone beeps at the time. And it says your event is about to start in 15 minutes. So I was literally rubbing my eyes, could not even see. I opened my Facebook and I was like, what is this event? Where is it happening?
Yeah.
And the location of it was like 200 meters away from where I was parked. So I was like, okay, it's close
right
by.
there, yeah.
It was a meditation session. So I called up my husband saying, look, I want to be alone any which ways. It's here by chance, so I'm just going to go. It's an hour's process and I'll see you later.
You didn't want to deal with the pain of that together as a couple, knowing it was such a big dream that was being taken away from, I imagine, both of you.
Look, yes, the answer is yes. And we did, because this was not the first time I had failed at it, right?
And you'd expected that? You'd expected the response that you'd get when you went into the clinic?
Yes.
You saw that coming?
Yes. Oh, I knew it. Somewhere deep down, I knew it was not working out. But I was not in a place of acceptance. Forget about being aware of what's happening to me. I was playing the victim. I wanted to fight it. I wanted to prove myself right, because I always somehow was right in all my other decisions till that time.
You wanted to control this as well?
Yeah. So I left my car. I walked to that place, and guess where I reached? I reached to the first session of Maitri Bodh Parivar. It led me there. So if my husband didn't come with me that day, or I chose to go alone, it was all leading to something, and I'm thankful for that. So that was the day when I started to really tap into spirituality and understanding it from somebody who was in a state, who realized what spirituality is and could explain it to me. Somebody like me, somebody ignorant like me. And that's when a lot of shifts started to happen. So I'll take a pause there.
You opened yourself up to that journey as well. I think that so much of that is about opening up to the science that the universe is providing.
To be honest, no.
No,
I left that meditation and I never wanted to go back. I was like, no, this is not for me. There is a balance of scales. You need mind, but you also need your heart. And we have put so much of weight on mind that it started to take control of not just you and me, but humanity and this planet at large, right? And somewhere there is a balance that needs to be established in terms of who we are when we operate from the heart, our mind aligned together, right? So my mind was hyperactive and it told me this is not for you. And I did not go back for, I think, good 6 months. I didn't want to go back.
Really? You didn't go back for 6 months?
I was like, no. I did not experience anything. It was a waste of time. I was vulnerable. You know how your mind plays with you?
Yeah.
So I had enough reasons to validate my action and my mind was helping me.
Were you not ready to sit with yourself and your inner voice and to have those conversations that were going to come out of that? What were you afraid of?
Say again?
What were you afraid of?
Everything. I could not look myself in the mirror. I did not like what I saw. I did not like myself because I was just focusing on my physical self. Like I said, I'd put on so much weight and I was losing hair with steroid and oh my God, I was in a terrible state and I did not want to look at myself. I stopped meeting people because I felt embarrassed of who I had become. And I was literally, building those walls around me. And every time something would happen, I would lay another layer and make it higher. So I almost kind of disappeared in my own world, doing no good to myself, right?
I relate to that more than you think I do, and I've never opened up about this, but there was a time in 2018 where I was diagnosed with depression, ADHD and anxiety at the same time. And I was going through something at home as well. And I'd put on so much weight. And I used to get all of these comments. Of course, people body shame you at that point, but they think it's about food and it's about lack of discipline. But there's so much mental health involved with how your body looks and how you feel about it. That I don't think anyone else understands that on the surface. So I remember going through those exact moments where I stopped taking photos. I stopped, being active on social media. I stopped posting because I didn't want to be photographed. I didn't want people to look at me. You somehow, you want to become invisible and not be seen. So
if there wasn't a table, I'll jump and hug you right now. But we can do that after this. I'm sending you a virtual hug.
Same. I feel it. Definitely feel it. So I understand exactly how you must have felt in that moment. What was that self-love journey like for you? Because you said you didn't like who you saw in the mirror. How did you start falling in love with that person again?
So like I said, I will give a huge credit and lots of gratitude to my spiritual teacher, Dada Shriji, because he enabled me to make those changes for myself, right? But it required a lot of forgiveness, because
Forgiving yourself?
So you've very rightly said that's the most important piece, because we think we have to forgive everybody else and we forget that we have to forgive ourselves for being so hard on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that was a big thing. But you must have heard of this, right? If you carry all this monkey on your shoulder, how will you ever feel light, right?
Yeah.
So I had to let go of all those monkeys on my shoulder, and there were many of them. I think there was a hill up there.
What were these monkeys doing? What were they saying to you? Why were they holding you back?
They were not holding me back. I was keeping them with me. I was feeding them every day bananas, and they were very happy being around me. So it was all on me. Nobody else. So if we unpack this, whoever has hurt you, they have done that in their state of consciousness because they feel that's right. They have moved on because they are operating at a different level.
Yeah.
Here you are, where you're trying to rediscover yourself and do right by yourself, and you realize, oh my God, this person did bad to me, and by holding on to that thought, I'm letting them control my life from here onwards.
Still have that power over you.
Yes.
Even after it's done. Maybe it was done years ago. Maybe it was done months ago, but you still carry and lug that around.
Sometimes lifetimes, right? But who are we hurting but ourselves? And, a lot of people talk about it, but very little do something about it. And my shout out to anybody who's listening to this is to do something about it. If you do not know how to do it, call me. But do something about it, right? You have to let those monkeys go. Stop feeding them bananas, right? Otherwise, they'll come right back and they'll call their friends too.
That's true.
Right?
There's something so comforting about being in a state of just throwing a pity party to yourself and just reveling in that every single day.
Yes.
Why is self-pity such a state of safety and comfort, and why is it so hard to come out of that? Okay. Why is it so easy to be a victim and hold that narrative?
Sure.
Even after you need to let that go.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And the answer that I'm getting right now is, when you cut yourself and you ooze blood, if you were to look at your body and say, why are you oozing blood? It's so gross. Don't do that. It's like you're asking your body to behave against its true nature. Right? So when you go through a challenging experience and you feel pity for yourself, is because that's your natural behavior. So my advice is, do not fight it, right? Let it happen to you, because the more you fight it, the more you want to do it, right? The best advice or the best lesson that I've learned for myself is to flow with it. But do not get dragged into that flow, right? So if you feel pity for yourself, feel that. Let it happen. Be aware that I'm feeling pity over myself or over what has happened to me. I feel sorrow. I feel grief. I feel like a victim. Experience that emotion, because good and bad, all the emotions are here, and they were all given to us to experience it, right? Experience it, but do not make that your truth. Do not start to identify to it. That is not who you are. You felt like that in that moment. That is not Shreya. Shreya had an emotion, but Shreya is who she is, right? So first advice, do not fight it, because the more you fight, the stronger it will come. And I'll share a little example of that. Is I told you about my 2015 surgery, right? And all the beautiful things that happened after that. My learning was not over, Shreya, and somewhere there was a big lesson to be learned. So fast forward to 2021, okay, and this is around June, July, and my condition, because of which I was operated, started to surface back, which was
even after you were operated.
Yes, it came back, and one thing led to another, and I found myself with an even worse diagnosis this time. It was almost a borderline ovarian cancer diagnosis, and I literally again in 24 hours packed up and left for India to go to my doctor. And this time, I have to say this, and I say it with all humility, I thought my days are done, because having survived what I survived in 2015, I just did not have the courage to go through that again, right? And because the diagnosis was worse, I was like, I do not know how will I come out of that operation theater this time. So I landed in India, and thankfully was treated by the best doctors available, and they took really good care of me through the surgery. This time it was 9 hours long, and it was a very complex surgery, and a lot had to be done. So yeah, I came back to senses. I opened my eyes, and I was obviously in a lot of pain, and I saw my husband tearing up next to me. And it was soon after COVID, so nobody was allowed to visit, so it was just me and my poor husband.
Isolating.
Yes. It was hard, right? Nobody could come and see you or whatever. And I remember holding his hand, and I told him, both tearing up, and I'm tearing up right now. I don't know why. I've said it a few times, but I said, if my God or my teacher or whoever in the universe loves me and is putting me through this challenge again, that means I will be rewarded for enduring this pain. I have to finish a learning, and this time I want to do it for once and for all. And Shreya, that for me was my aha moment. Because after that, something in me shifted. I think that big learning that had to happen had happened. Do you need a tissue?
Do we both need tissues?
I have to say this, I've shared this story a few times, but I've never felt it so emotionally. I think it's your presence, or it's our connection, whatever it is, and I'm tearing up. I came back to Dubai, almost recovering after a very, very complex surgery.
Yeah.
And other masters appeared, other help arrived. I got introduced to pranic healing, and how pranic healing helped me recover after the surgery. It was miraculous. My operating doctor was surprised at my recovery, and the pageant manager was calling me since August, right? And with whatever was going on in my life, it was so private and it was so quick. I was not sharing it with anybody.
You weren't open about it back then?
Not yet. I was still figuring out what just happened to me, right? So when I came back to Dubai after the surgery, to be honest, I was in a place where I just wanted to feel like a woman, if that makes sense.
What did that mean? What did that mean for you back then?
I mean, just surviving a surgery where you were diagnosed for an ovarian cancer. Thankfully, there was no cancer. It was non-malignant.
I'm glad.
So somebody up there was taking care of me.
Yeah.
But there was a lot that I went through, and my chances of ever getting pregnant were diminishing, and I had been through a lot, and I just wanted to feel good about myself. So I told my husband, look, my odds of even being accepted in the pageant is minimal, but I'll ask them anyways, because they followed up with me for how many ever times, right? And I also remember when I was still in the hospital recovering, their phones would ring, right?
From the pageant.
Yeah. And I used to laugh at my husband. I was like, I can't even lift my finger. My hemoglobin is so low. They think I say
ramp
this.
walk.
Yeah. I dress up like a doll and walk the ramp. It's not happening. But
two different realities.
Yes. But life had different plans, Shreya. All I did was I just followed my heart there, right? So I was like, I will just dress up, get some good pictures, feel good about myself, reclaiming myself. So even if it's just that, I will...
So without any expectations, without end results, without focusing on what would come out of it.
And the pageant team actually briefed me. They made me sign a non-disclosure saying, you're coming at the last minute. So it was, I think, 8 or 9 days before the actual pageant. So the photo shoots were done, the dress rehearsals were done. They did some trainings and calendar shoots. I had missed on all of that, right? They're like, you can come and participate. We can't do anything additional. So I was like, yeah, I just want to be a part of it. And one thing led to another, and I brought the crown home.
Congratulations.
Thank
wow.
you. Thank you.
Was that a reward in some way? Do you see it as a sign of reward for whatever you'd gone through?
Absolutely.
In
I see
that
it
short
no other
span
way.
of time? What did that mean? What did winning that crown mean for you?
I think in a way I reclaimed Charul back, who was all beaten up, who was missing her confidence, which she always had. Somebody who was a go-getter, somebody who was the bright kid in the family, who always did right by others. So, but my life in those 4-5 years just took me off the track completely. And bringing that crown home, or just even, looking at myself in the pictures, even now when I look at pictures sometimes and I see that crown on my head, the first question is, what did I ever do to deserve it?
Really? You have imposter syndrome? Do you feel that way?
Sometimes. I'm only human, right?
Yeah.
Especially after going through what I was going through at that stage in 2021. But it's a beautiful reminder that, we all deserve to be crowned. So finish your learnings and the crown will come home.
That's beautiful. And very well deserved, even if you questioned it.
Thank you.
Even if it was just a testament to everything you'd been through at that point.
Yes.
Even if it came in the form of a beauty pageant.
It was not something that I had on my vision board. It was not something that I had planned for. Circumstances led me to that. I accepted it. I gave it my best without any expectation. And there it is, right? So I say it in my workshops. Do you want to live with the fear of discipline or the fear of failure? What it is. You choose your fear. Your fear of failing or your fear of trying, right?
You choose your hard as well. You choose what is hard right now, what is hard later. And
absolutely, right?
If you pick instant gratification, you're just picking the harder hard for later.
Correct. And again, choosing your fears, those monkeys on your back, you choose who you want to feed. And then you decide which path you want to take. And again, I'm sharing today all beautiful things about my life here. But, I made wrong choices as well. I have been wrong with my decisions. I have been wrong with people who I trusted. But it's all a part of your journey. If everything was going right all the time, what's the joy in it anyways, right?
Was Dubai on your vision board ever?
No.
Because you come from India.
Yes.
Do you come from a small town in India or where in India?
Yes, from the north of India.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has that journey been like, from a small town in India to Dubai to Mrs. UAE International?
Yeah. Born in a city called Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh, in the north of India. I was always that girl in the family. I was the middle child. I have an elder sister and a younger brother. So I had that middle child syndrome, right? I would always get those clothes from my sister because she was growing up faster than I was at some point.
Yeah.
And my brother, the boy child, a little disclaimer, my parents, they loved all three of us equally. Okay. All this assessment is my own doing. I take full credit of it. But I was always that child. I was sick as a child. I was not a very healthy child. I struggled as a little girl with one thing or the other. But I remember being that child who was always hustling, who was always disrupting. Very unlike who people thought I was. I was this timid, very well disciplined, very quiet. Would you imagine? Child.
I'm glad that's changed.
But I was a go-getter. I was always first in my class. I was great in my studies.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
High achiever, definitely high achiever.
Yes, and dreamer, right?
Yeah.
And I was the first child in the whole colony, if not in the whole family, who traveled to Mumbai. So I got selected to study in Institute of Hotel Management. I did my hotel management from Mumbai, Dada Catering College.
Wow. Was that what you wanted to do? You wanted to get into?
No. My mother made me fill some forms after 12th. I wanted to be an IITian. So I was preparing for IIT.
No way.
Not knowing what I wanted, but I was so good in maths and science. It looked like the only option at that time, right? So my mother was not very happy about that. She did not want me to grow up like a geeky nerd. So she made me fill up some forms, which I did not even know. I was just signing the forms, right? And I thank her forever for doing that. So the next thing I remember, I got a call from Mumbai to join the IHM Institute in Mumbai. I finished my 3-year program there in hotel management. I worked with the Oberois, and I flew with Jet Airways for a bit as a crew. Yeah. Year and a half. Enjoyed it. Did not like my job. I knew I would not.
You didn't like it?
No, because in terms of creativity, there was zilch, nada, nothing. You're only doing veg or non-veg meals, short sector flights. It was a domestic flight at that time, right? So, and like I said, I was a dreamer. I wanted to do more. I wanted to learn more, grow more.
What was the biggest dream you had back then? What was the biggest dream that younger Charul ever dreamt?
To leave a legacy. I did not know what it would look like. How would I create it? I did not have any answers or resources, Shreya. No answers, no resources, and everything against, all circumstances against you. But I knew I wanted people to remember me for doing something good. I wanted to leave a legacy. Now, what that looks like...
You didn't know that?
No. To be honest, I'm still work in progress. I'm figuring things out, right? So yeah, after Jet, I got an opportunity to work with the Marriott in the Caribbean islands. So I flew all the way to the Caribbean. My family hated my guts. My parents were sad, but I wanted to do it, so they let me. And I'm very grateful to my parents. They allowed me.
There was family support.
Yes.
Wherever you wanted to go.
Yes.
Study,
they made
travel.
Yes, they allowed me to make my mistakes. And I'm grateful for that.
Were there any gender expectations to this, or do you see gender expectations to women or girls not being allowed to, to travel, to study abroad, to work abroad, for that matter? Do you see those gender expectations?
I will answer this in 2 ways, yeah? One is how I understood it, and one, how the world made me see it, right? How I understood it is, and thanks to my parents, who never let such a feeling come upon us at all in the household, right? The 3 kids in the family and the extended family, the cousins or relatives, whoever would come and visit, I, as a little girl, never felt the need to even think about it, because I never felt discriminated is a very strong word, distinguished, or, made to feel like I am a different child than my brother, for example, right?
You never had that lens growing up. It was never made apparent to you.
No.
And that's a gift. I think that's a gift in itself.
It is. You're right. Yeah. And then the other thing is, the way you asked the question, I think it was a perfect timing when I said I traveled, 7 seas and I went to the Caribbean, because that's when I realized, the world doesn't see me doing things the way I see me doing things, which is, if a boy can, travel and do whatever, why can't a girl? Because I had few relatives of mine call me and ask me questions, which made me introspect a bit. Like, oh, your mom allowed you to do that. And I was like, why wouldn't she, right? Oh, but your elder sister, she got married very young, and you're doing all of this. Don't you want to get married? And, you start. So
that was the first time you questioned that. Like, should I be thinking about marriage? Should I be allowed to travel?
Yes.
That was the first time that ever...
Yes. So that concept of not gender bias, but inequality in a way, it established or started to get defined in my persona for the first time when I took that long flight away from home. And mind you, we do not come from, a super uber level family. We were a middle class family, right? And to your question, it's a very common discussion in a household. I was kept away from it, thankfully. But as I continued to understand life better, coming out of my own cocoon, I realize it's almost something that they're born with.
Yeah.
The girl child in the family, and
Yeah.
they have to accept it, for lack of a better word. Resenting is not an option. Fighting it is questionable.
Yeah.
So you just start to live that life that somebody else defines for you, if you may, right?
And it takes a lot to go against that.
Yeah, I don't know if going against is going to help, right? But it's more about a societal change, a mind shift, right? It's not an easy task. It's a tall order. But doing something like this today, kudos to you. In the keynotes that I deliver around the world, I very happily accept topics around gender equality, about mindset shifts, mental health, well-being, self-help, right? And all of those beautiful topics, because there is more that needs to be said and done about these things than it has in the past. And now is a good time to talk about it because people are listening.
Yeah. Do you see a difference in those conversations in India and UAE?
Comparing the two landscapes?
Yeah.
It's like apples and oranges, right? But each in their own way have progressed phenomenally, right? I'm in UAE. I'm so blessed. We are all so blessed to be a part of this beautiful community we call home or extended home. I mean, where in the world did they have a ministry of tolerance? 2 years back, for the first time ever, known or heard, in the mankind, was a ministry of tolerance set in UAE.
What does that department do?
So it's the purpose of the department of that ministry is to make UAE a more tolerant community, a more tolerant country. And tolerance, I think, is a beautiful word. When we talk about gender imbalance, inequality, discrimination, it kind of puts it in a dark light. Tolerance is very positive. So we as a community, we embrace who we are. We embrace culture differences. And I remember I had the privilege of having a private audience with Sheikh Nayan, the minister at the time, Minister of Tolerance. And his vision and his goal through that ministry was phenomenal. So very, very happy to be here experiencing that.
You were telling me about Jet Airways.
Yes. Oh, wow. Let's go back there.
The story from Jet Airways coming from Kanpur in India to the skyscraper city of Dubai. What has that been like? So
I landed in the Caribbean, and that's when all the gender discussion started, right? But I worked with the Marriott for 2.5 years. My family and I was, to be honest, we felt the distance, doing the damage. Because back in the day, you had to hop 3-4 different flights to get to Mumbai. There were no direct flights, right? And the time difference was day and night. So after 2 years, and it was also such a laid-back life. I loved it. But 200,000 people.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to grow, you had to wait for somebody to retire, right? And I did not have that time. So that's when Dubai happened to me. In Dubai, I wanted to come back closer to home, but not necessarily in India, because I grew up there. I knew that market, so I wanted to explore. And very beautifully, Dubai happened. I got an opportunity to come and work here. I first landed here in 2003, and then everything else is history. In between, I took a break, a few breaks actually. I went and I studied in the UK, did my master's there. Then when I got married, I took a break in 2011 to go and live with my husband in India before we both moved here. And then I also went and lived in Canada for a couple of years.
Was that difficult for him to make the move to Dubai, to be where you are and to support?
Believe me, I will let him speak for himself. Look, he visited me several times before we got married, and we both mutually agreed that this is the place we wanted to call home. So I'm sure he saw things which aligned with him and the future that we wanted to build together.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
Because there's just some sort of gender assumption that you move to wherever your husband is, especially in India. It's not even a question of discussion. So I love that he supported you.
No, I think who I am today and the way I position myself and the way I've been able to achieve whatever I've been able to achieve. I give immense credit, very socially, very publicly to my darling husband. We've come a long way. We are married for 12 years now, and the first 6 years were very difficult. But all those challenges have led us to a place where we understand each other now. And, writing book and being here and running my business, our business, we both co-founded the business.
Oh, you run it together?
Yes, could you believe? I have to write a book on that.
You do because they say
Couples
don't mix relationship and business, and don't mix love and
Who says that,
business
Shreya?
together.
Who says that?
I mean, that's what I've heard. But you're clearly proving that wrong.
There are days when I want to go back to them and say, you're right.
So it is a mix of...
It is. I think it's how you build that relationship, how you define that narrative for yourself, right? But yeah, going back to what I was saying, I'm so grateful. He's my silent supporter. And there's so many ways in which he has helped me, come out and shine. And has been there, through my surgeries, through my times of crisis and chaos where I did not want to even see anybody, let alone my own self in the mirror. He's been through that with me, and I'm so grateful. I think it always helps to have that support at home.
Yeah, definitely. What does having a supportive partner do for a woman in terms of her career, in terms of her growth, in terms of success, and how far she can go as well?
Wow, that's a very difficult question. Yeah, I think it will be inappropriate of me to say how far can you go. It will have to be one's own journey. But to say you can do it all alone is a myth. I can say that with a hand on my heart, right? The more we lean on, the more we can be vulnerable, the more we can leverage. That's the way to be. We as humans were created to live and thrive in a community, not isolate ourselves and prove each other right or wrong, right? Or who is greater and better than the other.
Yeah.
The whole essence of humanity is community, right? Now, define community, define your tribe. Your tribe could be just that friend that you meet every day. That's fine. That's your community, right? Your community or your tribe or people you vibe with could be your husband and your kids. And that's fine too. It could be, you're a single mother and you live with your parents, and that's your community, right? And I say this again and again, and I've said this a few times already in our conversation. Do not let somebody else's truth be your truth. Define your own happy, define your own, truth. And when you do that, you will set examples or perhaps shine the light upon a different way of living for somebody else who is seeking an answer. Because everybody looks up to somebody, right? And why are we doing this? Because we want people to learn from our experiences, right? But for me to say this is the only way to do it is absurd. If anybody says that, I think there is room for dialogue there, right? So go with your own experience, but find a way of leaning on, because I think that is extremely, extremely important. Not only when you're sad, but also when you're happy.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody who pushes you forward, somebody you can pull along with you, somebody who nudges you, somebody who offers you that hand when you need it the most.
Absolutely. I think we have to learn to ask for help as well. It's okay to, like you said, lean on other people, and we're so afraid of asking for help.
Yes.
That the sense of community, needing people, when you need them, and also offering that in return is so important. And have you felt that in the startup community? Have you felt that in the UAE? Do you have other female founders around you? Is there a web of them in Dubai supporting you as well?
Be smart, not foolish, right? What I mean by that is, as you continue to grow your network, you will come across people, because that's them. That's not you, who would want to take advantage, who would steal ideas, who would, talk back about you, and whatever it is that they do, right? And that's fine. Rainbow has 7 colors. If you miss a color, it's not a rainbow, right? So when you meet people, you'll meet all kinds of people. But you have to, so like I said, you have to be smart, not foolish. Smart in terms of who do you want to define as your tribe? Who do you want to share what you want to share with, right? And there's a lot that comes through experience, right?
So be discerning and filter
Yes,
people out.
yes. But it's okay to make mistakes. If you decide to call somebody a friend who after 6 months or 6 years you said, oh, what the hell was I thinking? It's okay, because perhaps you both had some learning to finish together. So take it with a pinch of salt, remember the good times and move on. Don't stay there. And definitely do not want to venge it off with anyone, because it will not take you anywhere positive.
Yeah. How do you balance wanting to do more, to be more successful, to be more ambitious, to create more opportunities with the spiritual side of you, which is I have enough, I am enough, I've done enough, and I'm really content with where I am? Is there a trade-off?
Wow, again, a very big and a very deep question. Look, I go through that trade-off or that dialogue with myself every single living moment of my life, right? It's like, okay, I've written 3 books or how many ever books, but I have this urge and I'm almost on the way of writing 2 more books, right? So I think what keeps me sane is understanding the value out of it, right? The value for myself and the value for others, right? If me wanting to do more, it's not like a rat race, right? Because I'm running against myself, right? Am I going to crash and burn doing what I'm doing, or I'm going to see how it adds value to my journey and to those around me? And I think that definition of value for me is over the time become very, very instrumental. Otherwise, it's just another book or it's just another trophy. And I'm telling you, it will give you no contentment, no peace, no joy whatsoever. So if you really want to feel that joy and that contentment doing what you do, define how that adds value to you and to the community that you live in.
What is the balance between ambitious and being content?
So contentment is, this is my definition of it, right? So my definition of contentment is fulfilling the value out of whatever it is that you do. And then ambition is wanting to do it better the next time. So if I've written a book and I feel I've added value to myself, to my spiritual journey, and it helps or it serves as a guide or a self-help tool to others, I have fulfilled the value of that task. My ambition is to write the next book which is better than my first.
So you're only competing with yourself and no one else?
If I achieve that state, I think I can leave everything and go to the Himalayas. And I don't even want to start to believe I've reached there. I'm only a human. I set bold targets for myself. So if it's a book, I want to work upon making it a best-selling book, right? If it's a workshop that I've delivered for 20 people, I want to now deliver it for 200 people, ensuring that the value gets delivered, right? But yes, I think it's always helpful to have a benchmark. And, giving all the wisdom I'm giving you today to learn from others, lean on, leverage, that's where the competition or, those who are doing better than yourselves, they come in. So I think we need to be wise enough to understand what's happening in the market, who's doing what in terms of your business stream or your area of work. And there's always a thing or two to learn from each other. I've learned a lot from other people who have written books or, who do podcasts like yourself and, who have gone through what they've gone through in their life. So I spend a lot of time meeting new people, networking, because there's a lot of strength in the right network. And I think I skipped the question when you asked about, Dubai, if it has a good startup ecosystem, right? It does, in terms of the support of setting up your business and all of that. But also there's been a huge shift of women leaving their jobs or who are new mums and, they took a break and now have a calling of doing something on their own. So there are a lot of budding entrepreneurs in the market. I actually coach quite a few of them in terms of their journey becoming an entrepreneur.
What can we do to bring more women on the table where decisions are being made, where investments are being made? How do we support them?
Look, if we look into an organization, like a grain of an organization, how many women make it to the board level? You and I know it's less than 10%, right? When you look at a family level, let's say an Asian household, right? How many women are allowed to make decisions for their kids and their family and their businesses? Perhaps less than 5%,
Yes.
right? And if you go to different other parts of the world, those numbers, they vary, right? So there's definitely room for improvement, right? I think we as individuals need to define how we can enable that. If it disturbs you, what can we do to improve it? So somebody like myself, right? You talk to me on a podcast, I'll bring it up. You put me on a stage, I'll bring it up. You ask me to write a book, I'll bring it up, right? You ask me to deliver a workshop, I'll bring it up. Because a change will only happen through dialogue. You have to somewhere, because it's all here, Shreya. If your mind is not thinking in the direction, you will not implement a change.
That's true.
And that is true to every human being, a government official, a homemaker, a budding entrepreneur, whichever way we want to slice and dice it, right? The important thing is to talk about it, bring awareness about it, and create channels and opportunities for them to do something, because you and I have platforms to talk about it. The others are sitting and wondering, how do I take that first step, right? So going back again to what I started the conversation with is, education is the foundation of bringing about a societal change in mindset, right? And I want to be able to achieve that through my foundation, especially for girl child.
Yeah.
If from their childhood they know that they can dream big and they can bring about a change, they do not have to be that cookie cutter like their mother lived their life, right? Which is not good or bad. I'm sure she had a very fulfilling life, but perhaps that's not their choice. Allow them to choose. So yes, it's not going to be a significant change today or tomorrow, but we have to find our own way of wanting to bring that change and do it more than a lip service.
How do we go about creating those opportunities, building those channels, educating, whether it's in the government space, whether it's in the startup space, whether it's in the investment space, accelerators, or even companies for that matter, when it comes to hiring and recruiting? How do we go about shifting these different landscapes, if you want to touch upon them?
Sure. So if you look, let's take example of UAE, right? So if you see, so at a government level, they have made provisions, right, of bringing women into different areas of decision making, be it at a ministry level, be it at a board level, be it at any level, right? There are mandates that they have to meet. So one way of bringing about a change is creating or defining a protocol and mandating it, right? In which case, it's a bell curve kind of an approach, that those many men, these many women, everybody gets an opportunity.
Have that
and
ratio and have that set.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other way of approaching it is really understanding what it is that they want to do, right? So there are many accelerator programs here, right? Depending on your area of work. So, Dubai accelerator programs, they help you fund your startups. They help you with raising equity for your business. They help you with the coaches that can guide you and mentor you through the first 3 or 5 years. So all that help is provided, right? And I have to say this because it's no better way to say it. Let this work also start at a household level.
Yes.
Right? Because if the government is giving you all those opportunities and they're not takers for it, then it's a decision worth reconsidering, right? So at a household level, how we are bringing up our kids, how are we telling them what it is for them when they grow up? For a mother to know that, raising the children is not the only purpose of her life. Or that, if she wants to do something from home, like there's so many entrepreneurs within each household in India, whether it's your father, your brother, your mother, your siblings, even your extended cousin, right? Who enables you to bounce off those ideas, who allows you to dream big, right? Sometimes, and most of the times for me, it has been my own self, right?
You took on that role for yourself.
That is my home.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I had to come home. And I want to drive this point across to the listeners as well, that it's good to leverage, lean on and all of that. But if in an unfortunate circumstance where you cannot have somebody who understands where you are, you know you have a home to go to. And believe me, you will get the answers, right?
Yeah.
So as much as I really, really appreciate my husband, my brother, my parents who have helped me on different occasions of my life,
Yeah.
I really had to go home to my own self to figure out what it is that I want to do. I'll use an analogy, right? So if you want to make or paint a beautiful masterpiece, right? Somebody, let's say your brother, knows which pencil would be great to sketch this, right? Let's say your father tells you these colors will look very bright. Your mother comes and says, hey, this canvas size is beautiful. But if you do not know what you want to paint, all that advice on which crayon to use, which colors to choose, what size of the canvas, how does it matter?
Yeah.
So knowing what painting you want to paint is you knowing yourself. And easier said than done, but if you crack that code,
Yeah.
that's where the beauty lies, and that's going to be your aha moment.
I'm still figuring that out. When you say that, I'm still figuring that out, because it's so important to sit with yourself and ask and know what is it that you want to do, what is it that you really want, without the external noise, without the external validation or seeking support, seeking advice, because I think all of that will fall flat if you don't know the knowing, if you don't know the calling. And that first step is probably the hardest step to take.
Yes.
Because so many people dreams for you. So many people have this blueprint and the story laid out for you that this is the path that you're supposed to walk on. And for you to say no to that, and for you to just stick true to who you are and something that is calling you, I think that also takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
Takes a lot of work.
Yes.
And I think I'm at a place where I'm also still figuring that out. And
Yes.
I don't think that comes easy.
One, it will not come easy, I will tell you that. And two, it's an ongoing process, because the moment you think you're enough, that's where the decline begins, right? So it's not wanting to get better and better and acquire more and more, but it's always wanting to finish one learning and move on to the next, because that really is the purpose of your life. Oh, I said it. How I understand anyone's purpose in life without quantifying or measuring it up or defining any boundaries around it. The purpose of one's life is to fulfill the learnings that we have carved out for ourselves. And while you have finished a few learnings, and I'd like to believe I have finished a few learnings, I think there is more to come, right? Some may call it challenges, the other call it learnings. The third person might, spell it out in a different way. But it's like if a train has reached a station and has nowhere to go, what do you do with that train? The journey continues, right?
Yeah. What have been the 3 biggest lessons you've gotten out of the hardest part of your life that you went through?
Truth does not mind being questioned, but a lie does not like being challenged.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
That was number 1.
Yes, because I had to be true to myself. I had to define what my truth was. And I also had to make sure that I was not accepting any lies from no one, even myself, right? The other very, very important lesson is define your own happy, right? And I've said, my recent post talks about it, right? And I've actually written it like that, the sun will continue to rise, and, the wind will flow, and, the waves will rise and fall. So there are things which are consistent. They're happening very naturally. The phenomena is beautiful, right? But something in them is changing, right? So they are happy in that state where the sun just rises and sets. It does not want to come and party with you, right? Yeah. But what gives you contentment? What is your flow? What gives you happiness? What makes you lit, You have to define that for yourself. And with that, the caveat here is it could change from different phases of your life. If you are a mother right now, seeing your child happy is what gives you happiness.
Yeah.
When that bird has flown off the nest, define your happy then. If you're still sticking to that happy, you're calling for trouble.
Yes.
And the third that's coming to me is, if you have to change the fruit, you have to fix the root, right? So if you really want your outcomes to be any different, you have to invest in that inner work. And that inner work that has done wonders for me is having a morning routine, having the me time. So for me, meditation in the morning is non-negotiable. My yoga and my time for myself is non-negotiable. My time to introspect and write what it is that I want to do in the next quarter, next week, whatever, whichever is your timeline, all that is super, super critical. So yeah, those would be my 3 advices.
That's solid advice.
Thank you.
That's solid packed advice from everything you've learned over everything you've been through.
Thank you.
As well. I want to touch upon sustainability, environment, Matiti green, because that's also
Sure.
It's Matiti.
Matiti.
Right? Matiti?
Matiti, yeah.
Matiti.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So when me and my husband, we co-founded Matiti Group, we wanted to go old school. We wanted to find a word that kind of resonates with our vision of the company. So Matiti is from Vedas in India.
Okay.
And it means being in multiple states at one time, at the same time.
Wow.
So you can be here, but you can also be there. And the world was not in that wave of sustainability. But Vikrant and I were at a point where we wanted to diversify our portfolio further. And we wanted to, have the foresight of becoming a carbon neutral ourselves, right? And we set up Matiti Green. And to be honest, it was so timely. Because as soon as we set it up, the whole world was at that time starting to talk about green.
When was this?
Must have been end of 2018, early 2019.
Yeah, when sustainability was just taking
people
off,
were starting to wake up. Yes, yes. So we were ready, right? So under sustainability, when we started, and this is the coaching that we provide to organizations as well. Sustainability is everything other than environment. And a lot
what
of
do you mean
us
other
don't,
than environment?
because everybody thinks we plant trees and that's sustainability. Even if you just read the UN SDGs, it gives you a sense and understand how holistic it is, right?
Yeah.
But for a layman, right, sustainability is all about carbon sequestration, unfortunately. I'm forgetting who did the polls. It must have been Deloitte or the EY. And, to kind of understand what sustainability meant to, a layman.
Yeah.
And I think it was over 80% responses all around environment initiatives. So I think we as a community first need to understand what sustainability is, right?
How do you define it?
I think it's the way of conducting yourself where you look out for yourself and others. It's simple. So if you are working or doing some project with environment, it's looking out for your benefit, but also the benefit of the environment. If it's about working with women and men, then how do you create a sustainable culture where both of them thrive together and learn together, right? If it's about offering employment opportunities to, those families in the rural areas, how do we do that by ensuring when I benefit from a project? So for example, our tree project, right? When we plant these trees in the rural areas and these farmers who look after those trees, we do not claim the crop. So whatever, if it's a fruit-bearing tree, the fruit is for them. So it supports their livelihood, right?
So creating shared value as well.
And that is sustainability for me, right? But just by planting tree and, helping sequester carbon, and then I'm printing, boxes of pages in my office, or I'm hopping on a plane to, first class to go wherever. How am I enabling a sustainable future for myself or others, right? So it's the holistic understanding of what sustainability is all about, right? It's like doing a big sustainability event, and we still have those printed cards for everybody who's coming in.
Yeah.
Wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
Right? So Matiti Green is into sustainability advisory, and then we have our bespoke tree planting project where we leverage AI and blockchain.
You leverage AI and blockchain into tree planting.
Yes. So it's all a virtual experience for the end user. So they're not really going to the tree. And who has the time to go to the tree in a rural area? But we bring the tree to your desktop, to your laptop, to your mobile device.
So I can trap it. I can track it. I can map it.
Yes.
I know exactly where my tree is.
So it's a 4D experience already. So you can track it and know the location of the tree. You can name the tree. So you want to name it after yourself, your children, your parents, your employees, you can do that. There is a AI chatbot, so you can chat with the tree. So there is a chat happening, and now we have forest sounds. So if you wanted to put your headphones while you're visiting your tree, you can also listen to the sounds of the tree.
Super relaxing.
Yes, yes. So that's Matiti Green, and then we have Matiti Capital, which is our trade financing arm. So yeah, this is how our business came together. And going back to our definition, being in multiple states, right? So we want to be able to offer more than just one service to our client, so they do not have to onboard 10 different vendors for a project, right? So yeah, this is how far we have come, but there is many goals for us in the future.
How do you see the role of technology play into sustainability today? Do you think tech will help solve a lot of climate change problems that we see today, or do you think we need more than technology? Is it more community focused, or how do you see the future of tech and sustainability shape in the near future?
Technology is the future, right? And the more we leverage it, the more we embrace it to do better for ourselves, I think that would be phenomenal. You have to adapt to the changes that are happening around you for the good of it, right?
Okay.
So if technology enables, which I'm sure it does, enables you to have a more credible output out of your initiative, it allows it to be more transparent, it offers more efficiency to the project, then we need to embrace it.
Okay. So tech and sustainability can go hand in hand, and they should go.
They should go hand in hand.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can use tech for good.
Of course. I am a full supporter of tech for good. Absolutely.
What about AI? What role does AI play in shaping sustainability as well?
I think AI is game changing. I mean, very simple example of the projects we are running, how it's adding so much value to our work, right? So it will depend on us as future, business owners, the budding entrepreneurs, the techies, the people who endorse tech for good, how they want to leverage the power and the might of AI to do better in terms of, better forecasts of their business, better collaboration with, I do not know, different technologies that are emerging and will emerge in the future.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a game changer. What do you think, Shreya?
You believe that? I think AI doesn't come without flaws, of course. And
Yes.
there is this balance between, will technology save us? Will technology solve all of our problems? And I think there needs to be a balance between focusing on people and communities and also technology at the same time. Because if you're not leveraging indigenous knowledge, if you're not tapping into what people want and what people need on ground, no amount of tech is going to help them. So I think that it just needs to run some sort of relationship, some sort of, balance between the two, that we don't fully focus on tech and we don't fully lose out on people at the same time.
Just in the melting pot of all the discussion on technology, I think the mindset is the game changer as well.
Yeah. Mindset, empathy, putting people first.
All of that.
It can't just be the E of ESG. You have to bring the social in.
Yes.
You have to bring
Yes.
policies in. You
Yes.
have to have regulations in at the same time. So
the
we don't
governance around it.
misuse anything that we're developing, because like you said, it comes from humans.
Yes.
And it can very well fall in the wrong hands.
Yes.
And that's, I think that's a lot of work needs to be done around that as well.
Fully agree with you.
What advice do you have for anyone who's in the green tech space, who's in the sustainability space, or is trying to build something off scratch, which is heading towards a more, sustainable climate tech, climate friendly technology, building that?
I think one is define the value of it. And I spoke about it earlier, right? What value it brings to the work you're doing, and what value does it bring to the community? And if not just your community, to communities at large, right? Define that value. Second for me is creating awareness, right? Many a times I've seen some projects fail because people do not understand why are they doing it, right? So creating awareness around the why of your work, right? Yes, you know it and you are great at it, but do people understand, right? And then the third thing, like you were touching upon, very, very critical, is the governance around it. Because technology in wrong hands can really be very devastating, right?
Absolutely.
So for individuals to follow the protocols and the governance and the governments and the the bodies that are equitable for that, to have and define those governance models is very, very critical. So those would be my few cents.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Does your spiritual practice add to your business practice? Is there anything that you draw from spirituality that you use in your day-to-day work, running operations?
I will let you in on a secret.
Yes, please.
All of it. All of it. Really, really.
Yeah.
Because I do not see me, or let's say I do not associate myself as a brain, or I do not associate myself as a heart. And I'm really, again, using an analogy here. Brain for me is the business and the heart is my spirituality, right? I do not associate or disassociate from either of them. For me, it's about, trying to bring in the alignment and sync and balance with both of those, right? So, like I was saying earlier, as much as I want to do my morning routine, but I also have a certain parameters defined for myself when I start to do my work.
Yeah.
In terms of, what I wish to achieve today, in the next week, or in the next month, right? So it's me making a conscious effort of creating a beautiful harmony between my practical life and spiritual life. My practical life teaches me some, my spiritual life teaches me much more. And yeah, it's about finding that right balance without freaking my husband out.
That's the biggest challenge of them all.
Yeah.
Because I'm still trying to find a way to bring mindfulness into what I do. To understand that it's not about speed. Sometimes it's just about taking a step back and really looking at where you are right now before figuring out where you want to go next.
Yes.
How do you practice mindfulness in business, in the work that you do?
Right. Look, mindfulness, when you talk about it, it's such a big word, right?
Will you unpack that for me? Will you unpack mindfulness for me?
If you go back to where we started, if we are 100% committed and engaged in what we are doing, and I called it an act of spirituality, it really is kind of coming from the place of mindfulness, right? If you are, Shreya, a 100% with Charul here in this room recording this podcast, you cannot but do justice to those 60, 80, 90 minutes.
Yes.
Right? So for mindfulness, for me, is giving your 100%, like 1,000%. But again, it's easier said than done. You have to prepare yourself to be in that state, right? You have to prepare yourself at a mental level, at an emotional level, and at a physical level. This is for you, right? And then for your outside world, you have to prepare at a family level,
Yeah.
a colleague and a friendship level, and then at a society level. So as much as there are 3 layers to peel here, there are 3 layers to peel there, right? To create that equitable equilibrium, let's say, to be in a state of mindfulness, right? Now, when you talk about yourself, right? So your physical self, so it's about right eating, sleeping patterns,
Exercise.
all of that, right? Then it's about your mind, right? Which is how much are you spending time with yourself? Are you meditating? Are you reading something which helps you nurture that good side of you? Are you expressing in a way which is by recording, by writing? If you're a poet, do you write, something that is melodious? I do not. Do you paint, right? Just expressing yourself, right? Because when you do that, a lot of you comes out, whether you acknowledge it or not, right? And let me check. Do you remember the 3rd level within yourself?
No.
We said mind, body, and?
Spirit, soul.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at the soul level, it really is about, and again, you might say, Charul, give me more, but I really want to leave it at that because it will have to be your own journey. Is to go with the flow. Go back to the quote that I used about truth and lie. Yeah. And you will know when you are listening to your heart and when you're not listening to your heart. So how Dada Shriji explains is when you get an answer for any question from within, and there is no fight, there is no challenge, there's no resistance, you know it's from your heart. But when you get an answer and immediately there is a counter attack that no, but it could be this, but oh, what if it was that? Oh, but I have explored this and this did not. When that chatter starts, it's not your heart, it's your mind. So connect to your heart more and you will know that you will have clarity. and it will lead you into a state of mindfulness. So that is at a personal level. As you go into who Shreya is, who Charul is as a physical identity, right? It's about very, very important, Shreya, that especially in Asian community, we do not have this, let's say, culture of defining boundaries.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we're all in each other's businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And look, it's beautiful. I actually like that part of our Asian community.
I missed that when I lived in Scandinavia. I wish people would interfere. I wish I could see people more often.
Yes,
and
yes,
we weren't that
yes.
individualistic, that each to their own. We didn't grow up that way. We grew
Right.
up with the community. We grew
Right.
up,
Right.
with, like I said, just everyone's nose in everyone else's business.
And that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
At a community level. But when you talk about family, right? When I say define boundaries, it's about how much do you allow who to impact you. So the words of your let's say sister, how much do you allow it to impact you or who you become? And when I say impact, mostly negatively impact, right? Because
Yeah.
I've suffered it, right? So
You've had voices of other people in your head that you knew were not that
yours.
wasn't your voice. That was
No,
not your
no,
narrative.
no.
It was someone else who might have said that or may not have said that, but it's that playing in your head
Yes.
over and over again.
And the reason I talk about it at a family level is because these people, they love you. They mean well. But very unknowingly, most of the time, there is a damage that's done. And that stays with you. And because
Yes.
it is out of a bond of love, it goes deep into our consciousness.
Why is that love more confining than any other love?
It's not confining. Where I sit, I see it very liberating. Define confining.
Sometimes I think your loved ones do not want you to change just out of their definition of how they look at you. That love could look like, maybe you shouldn't go there, maybe you shouldn't do that. It might come out of protection.
Yes.
It might come out of, I want to see you thrive, but also
Yes.
in a space of safety.
Right.
Within boundaries of you being safe, and
Right.
within boundaries of maybe those boundaries could be confining.
Right.
That's
right.
what I mean. Because sometimes that love that comes from your closest ones
Yes.
could be
I agree with
limiting.
that. Yes, I agree with that. But if it is in your fate to experience something and to go through a learning, it's like, I'll give a very funny example of arranged marriage in the Asian society.
Have I been through it?
Do you want me to go there?
I come from a Jain, Marwari Jain family. So obviously
Okay.
there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of, biodatas that come. My biodata is circulated everywhere without my knowledge or consent.
Wow.
So there's of course
Okay.
that pressure.
Yes, yes.
But I'm just at a point where I know it'll happen when it has to happen.
Right.
And I don't have to follow anybody else's timelines.
You say it
regardless of the
today,
pressure.
right?
Yeah.
Having burnt a few fingers, right?
Yeah.
So that was your journey, right? And on the hindsight, there are people who have gone through similar experience and have beautiful, positive journeys for themselves. From where I sit, Shreya, your journey was very positive as well, because it's shaped you to becoming who you eventually will become, right? It's difficult to go through that, but it was a positive experience from where I see it, right? Because I've been through my share of experiences as well. But going back to my point, right?
Yeah.
That family and the definition of boundary is not about, oh, I should be secretive, I should not share, or nobody should be, putting their nose in no one's business. No, it's a family, right?
Yeah.
But it's about defining how you allow somebody to impact or affect you. And that is it's a matter of self-discipline. Then it's not about telling somebody else, don't do this. It's about telling yourself that when somebody speaks to me, I will not do this to myself. Right?
So having stronger boundaries with yourself. It's not about other people. It's just about,
with yourself,
I would not let this in.
Yes, with yourself in the context of others. Right? Because you love your mother, you love your parents, you love your siblings and your grandparents if you have, right? But how much are you allowing them to negatively influence you without them knowing that they are doing that, right? So it's that. It's like a 4-hour workshop that I'm trying to squeeze in 4 sentences here. The next level is your friend circle, the social circle that you mingle with, right? And again, I'm going to only talk about boundaries here, right? Because that is what will lead to that mindfulness where we started. So here is Charul being all mindful. She's worked on the 3 layers for herself. Now she's working on the 3 layers that surround her.
The
which is
physical, mind, and the soul.
Which is here internally. And externally is the family, the social circle, and the community.
Yeah.
Right? So family we spoke about, social circle is exactly the same. Going back, and it's beautifully coming together. We spoke about, define your tribe, who you vibe with, right? Who are those people who you call friends? And this could evolve, huh? Some people who will stay your friends forever for the whole life, and there's some people who will come and they have a part to play and they'll go.
You outgrow so many relationships and friendships as well.
Don't even get me started on that. After I wrote the book, I have shed a lot of so-called good friends.
Was that shedding liberating?
It was very painful to start with because it was not initiated by me. It was initiated by them. And I think it's not the book. I think the book came as a tipping point in the journey. So after winning the crown, and then thank God I was on the front page of Gulf News. I was on College Times, and then I got onto several podcasts. Many articles came.
But that's amazing.
The business flew. You see it that way, the others don't, right? And it's their choice, right? But people who you sometimes associate with as a friend, I would call it you outgrow them, but they fail to see you grow, and they fail to see you happy. And there has been a huge learning Shreya there for me, because it was very painful for me. And it is coming to, that mindfulness about the community level, who you allow to, get into that space where they start to hurt you. And I can tell you, people who grow, especially people who come from humble beginnings, and people you thought were your friends, some of them were actually enjoying seeing you and offering their pity for you, and they like you being there.
They like you being small.
I don't want to use that word, but when somebody can pity you, somehow they look bigger than you. Right? So I have had some people who I considered friends, who were so used to seeing me in a state of pity that they enjoyed seeing me there. And when my life started to turn around, it was difficult for them to appreciate that for me or be happy for me. And
which would be the exact opposite of what a friendship
is
supposed to
feel
or do for you.
Yes. Some who told it to me on my face, and it hurts. Some
told you what?
What I've just said to you.
Yeah.
That, people package it differently, right? Some are very careful of how they say it. They'll say, oh, we're very happy for you, but you've become so busy, and, you are in a different circle, and I think, we go our different ways, and they keep it amicable. There are others who go drilling down to the point it starts to hurt you so bad. So yeah, I've had both.
I think that's what I meant by your identity shifting, and people can't keep up with that because they know a version of you, and it's so easy to just know and stick to that version of you, that when you start changing and you start going through these shifts, I'm sure that also came with spirituality coming into your life.
Absolutely.
You become a different person, and if someone else can't hold that space for you, that's when I think it becomes about finding faults in you and not really in their own journey.
Yes.
But I don't know if you think it was more about a reflection of what they were not doing with themselves. It was maybe you were reflecting untapped potential within maybe their lives that they weren't ready to confront yet.
Which is why they feel very uncomfortable around you, because you're showing them the mirror that they don't want to see, right? But, as much as it's their journey, it's also a learning, and it's a part of my journey, because outgrowing people who do not mean much to you is easy. Outgrowing people who you held close to your heart and expect, again, it's all expectations, right?
Yeah.
That can be very hurtful. So, that social circle and friendship sometimes has far more impactful consequences than your family. So we have to watch out for that, right? In a nice way, right? And then the third is community. the lesser I say, the better. Do not let them influence you whichever way, especially in the digital era we live in, with so many views of so many people, and you could not be sure of what it means to them, let alone how much it should impact you. I think the lesser we put an impact and emphasis on all of that impacting your inner state, the better. Because we live in a community which is shifting so quickly from one minute to another. If you want to stay abreast with what's happening around you, you are somebody who likes to have a pulse of what's trending and what's working, what's not. It's good, but there is no better way for me to say that stay away from all of that impacting your inner state. So too much of social media exposure, too much of consuming content, and then of course when we talk about mental health, there are patterns that we talk about, all science based facts, right? How much should you read before you go off to sleep? How much should you and when should you read after you wake up? The kind of content you expose yourself to, there's such beautiful things that you can do to this beautiful engine that has been gifted to us, this human body. But we have to define those 3 boundaries externally and internally to get into that state of mindfulness.
How do you extend love to all of these circles? How do you extend love to the family sphere, the friend sphere, the community sphere, and weave collective consciousness through it all while
Are you
setting those
receiving my love
boundaries?
right now?
I am.
And how do you know that?
It's just the energy.
You
I've
feel
felt
it,
that
right?
since you were in this room. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how the tears.
You're tearing up again. I love you,
But
Shreya.
no, me too. Thank you.
So you can only offer love when you're filled with love, right? You cannot ever pour from an empty cup. So if you want to be able to, where are those tissues?
We kept those tissues handy for a reason. Thank you. Honestly, it's just your energy.
Thank you.
Yeah. I felt that. I felt the light. I felt the connection the minute you walked in.
I'm so glad you did.
So thank you for touching me with that light. It's more that, and opening up to it as well, because there was that opening up that I could tap into.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. And again, all of that goes to the point that, fill yourself up with light and then you can offer it to others. It's the same as, if you look at the brain concepts of knowledge, if you do not have knowledge, if you don't have experience, why would you call me here to share it with you, right? So to be able to pour into someone else's cup, you have to fill your cup first.
How do you fill your cup? What overfills your cup so that you can pour onto others?
There are many things, right? And it's a big work in progress. But there have been few anchors for me that allow me to be in that state, right? And if you remember, I spoke about the AAA approach, right?
Yeah.
Let me check on you.
Awareness, alignment. There was one more. Awareness, alignment.
Anchor.
An anchor. Literally, you said 3 anchors. Now it's like anchors. Okay. I'm going to be the straightest student. I'm going to repeat that again. So now it's awareness, alignment, and anchor.
Anchoring, yeah. So a lot of that comes from me having a solid anchor, right? Anchor within me. Now, what is an anchor? Now, anchor could be a skill that you specialize in. An anchor could be your spiritual guru, which is the fact in my case. He's my anchor. Your anchor could be somebody in the family who you love dearly and follow to any bits. Your anchor could be your own self, right? So finding that anchor in life is extremely critical because, just a turbulent sea, yeah? And if you're not anchored somewhere, you will flow with the tide. You will not have any direction. You'll just get slapped by the waves, and you'll go whichever way the waves take you, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people enjoy that state.
Is that the state of surrender? Is that different from the state of surrender? To be in a state of flow, is you either just surrender to the forces wherever they want to take you, or you try to control?
Very beautiful question. From where I see it, surrendering leads to anchoring.
Wow.
Yeah?
How so?
Because if you think you know your anchor, right? So let's say you are a huge ship, a huge cruise ship, right? Going back to the analogy, right? And you find a little nail in the sand there. You're like, hey, I found my anchor. And you go put your rope around it, and you are this 300-room cruise ship.
Yeah.
And there comes a storm. What will happen?
It won't stand.
Yeah, but you had your anchor, right? You see where I'm going with this? So when you surrender, right, is you saying, okay, I will now identify how big is my ship? How big is the ocean? Is the sand shifting here, or do I need to go further towards the shore? Right? It's me understanding the dynamics in which I'm working and not wanting to change it. I can't reduce the shape or the size of my cruise to fit that nail as an anchor.
Yeah.
I cannot change the demographics of the shore I am parked at just because my anchor is that nail. I have to adapt to my surroundings, right? I cannot change the mighty waves, right? But I can shift my anchor.
So can your anchors change as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Till 5 years back, I thought I had an anchor without me actually calling it an anchor. And I thought that was my parents. And they were for the longest time. You know, for whatever I went through, they were always there, you know, a shoulder to cry on, people to share it with, people to go back to. But I think I needed more for me to elevate myself, for me to outgrow my older version, right? And I had to surrender, right? I had to accept my circumstances. I had to be aware and align. And that's when the next anchor appeared, which was my spiritual teacher. Right? So, and I've never said it, it's all coming through your beautiful questions, right? And I'm so glad you asked that question, because surrendering is what will lead to your anchoring.
Wow. Yeah, because we try to control a lot of outcomes without surrendering. And a lot of people talk about the state of surrender and how that just gets you to wherever you want to be.
Yes.
But as humans, we want to control the output. We want to control the results and have our say, regardless of whatever is, set for us.
For those people, I have a suggestion. Do it your way.
Do it.
See the result.
Yeah.
And then take my advice or our advice and surrender. Now, surrender, as a lot of clients who I coach, leaders I coach, a lot of them, they call surrender as giving up.
Yes.
Oh, are you saying I should let all my guards down? What will my CEO think of me? I can't surrender. Surrender is anything but that. Yeah, surrender is not putting your guards down. Surrender is not letting people humiliate you or insult you or show you down. That's not surrender. Surrender is acceptance. Is accepting what is happening around you, right? Surrender is not fighting your circumstance. So it's like, okay, when I was coming today to the studio and there was a little mix-up with the location, right? So when I say surrender, now that's my continuous state. I work towards it consciously, right? So for me, it was very clear that if I'm being delayed by 5 minutes, it's because she's supposed to receive me after 5 minutes. If I'm
such a beautiful way to think about it.
That's surrender. Could I fight when I'm late 5 minutes? Can I change it?
No. There's nothing that could have gotten you here 5 minutes
earlier, right?
Yeah.
There are times when I'm invited to 2 different events. Let's say one is an award ceremony and other is a keynote in front of some very important people. Now, what do I choose? One is important than the other, right? Now, what I mean that I surrender is I go within and I analyze what helps me fulfill that value that I defined for myself. And if it is that keynote, I will let that award be. And it has happened. I'm saying it because it has happened to me.
You've chosen the keynote over receiving an award.
Because I felt that will help me fulfill my value for that day or for that month, right? So I went ahead with that. That is surrendering. It's not putting yourself down or letting people walk all over you or feeling like a victim. It's none of that. It's everything beautiful.
I love that. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So that's what fills your cup. Your anchors are what fill your cup.
Yes.
That gives you the energy to...
That's like my recharge booth. Yeah. You go get your recharge done. And, when you find your anchor, let's just go a little bit deeper. It's your building your association with that anchor. So going back to the analogy of the ship, let's say for that cruise ship, you found the right anchor. So no matter what, storms or calm seas or whatever, you anchored. You move, you shift, but you come back to your position, right? Now, every now and then there will be wear and tear. So you might have to change the rope, or the hook might get rusty. So you have to, so to my example here with my teacher or whatever it is, your anchor, you have to work on building that relationship with your anchor, right? So if you have to service that anchor, if you may, in this analogy, change the hook, look at the wear and tear of the rope, change the direction because the hole is getting loose, whatever it is, right? So
it's still there's still some sort of reciprocity. There's still some sort of work that you need to put in to hold on to that anchor.
Everything should be work in progress. Everything. Because the moment you think it's over, you're stopping your own growth. Everything should be work in progress.
I know it's very difficult for you to talk about it, but having gone through the IVF process, I just wanted to touch upon that a little bit. I know there's a lot of women out there that might have gone through something similar and have had to maybe bury their dreams of becoming a mother. Is there anything you'd like to tell them?
Wow. It's such an emotional piece, right? My message to them is give it your best and leave the rest, because if you have heard the podcast so far to those women, the beauty of surrendering, right? So do not fight your circumstances. Do not play the victim. However, what is very, very important is to keep trying. So I'm not asking or encouraging anybody to stop trying because there have been miracles out there, right? People who thought it was the end of the road and they were blessed with twins or triplets or whatever, right? So I'm not saying sit and, anticipate a miracle. You have to stay positive. You have to keep trying, but stay in that state of surrender. Do not fight your circumstances. Do not think less of yourself and your body, because there's a lot of people who end up cursing their fate, cursing their bodies, their inability to bear a child. It's as much as they think it's their doing, it's not their doing.
It's also a lot of societal pressure. Might be a lot of people hurting you intentionally or unintentionally as well.
And let me say this without hurting anybody's sentiments, right? And I don't say it from a place of bitterness, but having a child, does it in any way guarantee your happiness for the rest of your life? I have known many, many parents who have had a beautiful family in terms of a husband and a wife and how many ever kids they wanted, and they have gone through some huge challenges within their families, and they've lived a very lonely life, right? So a life can be as fulfilling as you want if you just surrender to what it has to offer you. Keep trying, because being inactive is a state of a decline, right? And you don't want to be there. Stay at it if that's what you really want. Look at different options. The science is very progressive, and I think in times to come they will just, I do not know, they will just put babies through AI in us or whatever. But don't let that be the end state for you, because you're so much more than just being a mother. It's very fulfilling, I'm sure. And I wish that joy came in my life. But life has rewarded me beautifully for surrendering and accepting my circumstances.
Well, that's how they get to acceptance as well, no matter where they are in their journey.
Yes.
Is there any advice you have for anyone who's beginning on their path to spirituality, who's just exploring that and who's trying to figure this out, because it is a big word. Even for me to unpack spirituality, it looks different on everybody. It means different things to different people. How do we begin to unpack that?
Right. Look, for spirituality, how the other Shriji explains it, right? Do not get caught up in what spirituality means to somebody else. right? So people say, read a lot of books and read this and read that. Please read my book.
It's right here for
Yeah.
everybody to see it. That's Eye to Eye. If you'd like to
Eye
tell
to Eye with Eye.
Eye to Eye with Eye. Would you like to tell our listeners a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, sure. Briefly, yeah. So Eye to Eye with Eye. So after I got introduced to Maitribodh Parivar, right? Going back into our discussion today, after I moved, very, very randomly got into that room and did the first teaching, right? After my failed IVF. Long story short, I was told I will meet the founder, Maitreya Dadashriji, very soon after that. And I found myself 4 years down the line and I'd still not met him. So I was very bitter. I was childlike, when somebody takes away your toy and you're like, I'm not going to talk to you. Even if you show up, I will never speak to you. So I was very bitter. I was very childlike. I was inconsolable. And finally, would you believe it was only last year, 2022. Yes, when I met him for the first time.
What was that like?
There are 3 chapters dedicated to that first meeting, right? Of what it meant and what all I had to go through to be in his physical presence and how much of an impact it had on me. It was a life-changing experience without me knowing it at that time that I was going through that change. It was so subtle and it was so beautiful. So when I met him for the first time, I came back. And from 2018 till last year when I met him, there were many experiences that I was having. Experiences in the sense of you would say and imagine something and it would just happen to you. Or you were talking about something and you get an answer in your dream and you actually check on that.
Would that spook you?
No,
Would that ever...
no. I was flowing beautifully through it. When somebody was thinking about you and you texted and called them and they're like, oh my God, I was just talking about you or I was just thinking about you. That to me happens on a daily basis nowadays. And I'm very grateful for that. So somewhere your consciousness is getting elevated, right? So I was one day starting to just record all that. So what started happening was every time I would have an experience, I would audio file myself or I would quickly write a note if I was at work. And it started coming together as very different experiences, right? So in my head somewhere, I was like, one day I'll write a book about it. Mm-hmm. When I met him May of last year, it was a life-changing experience, like I said, without me knowing it. The first 3 chapters only talk about that. I came back and one day after my meditation, I thought of this title, right? And literally, Shreya, I took a A4 size paper and a printer. I went online, found this eye. I really like the eye, so I bought the image. Yeah. I put the image and in Arial, whatever font, I put the title. I printed it in color and I put it on my desk, on my workstation.
Eye to Eye with Eye.
Yeah. So in Hindi, they call it Atma Sakshatkar, right? So I put it on my workstation. It stayed there for a few months. Next I met him was at a retreat that happens in the foothills of Himalayas in Dunagiri. I met him in, when was it? September of last year. Beautiful, beautiful time. I do not know why. I took that printout paper in those plastic folders. So every time you meet him, you can get different things blessed by him, right? Okay. He just blesses them. So when it was my turn for getting things blessed, I had an A4 sheet printed. And one of his, disciples who was taking things, he's like, what is this? And I very confidently said, this is a book I'll write. And, he blessed it and I took it back with me, right? And I internally made myself a promise. When I meet you next, Dada, I'll bring this book to you. I thought the first meeting took 4 or 5 years. This will take another 10 years, right?
So you bought yourself 10 years. That's what you thought.
And then fast forward March of this, not this year anymore, 2023. And I had like 5,000 words together of different experiences that I was putting together. So I was like, yeah, my book is coming together. Knowing nothing about book writing, mind you. And I got a call. And there was another level of learning that was being released and we were invited to attend. And Dadashriji was conducting it. So we were over the moon, me and my husband, that, we'll get to be in his presence again. But for me, it meant having the book ready. Look at the ambitious me. This was March. I was like, yeah, we have to go in April. 1 month, I will whip the book together, right?
Oh my God.
And life carried on, and I was very busy. It was a very busy month for us, Shreya.
Yeah.
And then I found myself a week before the travel date. And we have his little idol at home, a picture. And I do not come across as somebody who breaks down very easily. I broke down in front of his picture, and I was like, look, I'm really sorry. I'm a woman of my word, but this time you'll have to cut me a slack. I am 1 week away from meeting you, and I will not keep my promise. And I surrendered, and something shifted. So next morning, I got a message from my friend of a friend who said, hey, your publisher is here in Dubai. He's doing a free workshop. I know you've been wanting to write a book. Do you want to come? I said, yeah, it was a Saturday. I have nothing to do. I'll come. And I had that guilt about not writing a book, so I said, I'll just go. Right? I went, and the publishers, I've done this and I've done that and we have done this. So I just very sheepishly raised my hand. I was like, I have a question for you.
How do I write a book in 3 days?
Yes.
Was that actually
And the whole room turned, and like, who's this lunatic? I was like, I have to write a book in 3 days. Can you make it happen for me? And he said, if you will write it, I will publish it, and let's talk later. So I was like, And after the event, we spoke, and we both thought we were being super, funny about it, very impractical.
Yeah.
But the next morning, our call was booked for 6 a.m. He coached me through the process. He's like, I've never done this. And I was like, how much time do I have? He's like, if you have to take the printed book with you in 7 days, you have to finish writing it in 3 days. And Shreya, it was around 8:30 in the morning that day I sat down to write. And again, thanks to my husband, the food, the coffee, everything
was just coming in your cave, in your little...
Yes. I would just take, my bio breaks, and that was it. And 3 days later was our next call booked. And when we talk to the publisher now, he laughs about it because it's become quite a story in his experience as a publisher.
I'm sure.
And he's like, I thought you will have all the reasons why you did not do it. But here I was. And when he said, how many words? I was like, I was not counting. So together, we did the word count. It was around 59,000 words.
From 5,000 words that you thought you had a book out of to 59,000 words.
And he said, oh, this can be 2 books because an ideal book is like 25, 30,000. I was like, no, it's all come out. This will be 1 book. And after that, we printed the book, took it. Dada was very, very graceful. He inaugurated or unveiled the book in front of 180 people in the ashram. And then when I came back is when we did the whole proofreading, the preface, the acknowledgements, all the dressing up, some grammar changes. And I went for a photo shoot to get a nice picture done. If I showed you the initial one. A lot of good things happen after that. And now we are a bestseller, thankfully.
I can't believe you pulled that off in 3 days.
So can't I sometimes. But such is the power of surrendering. So whoever was listening so far and they thought I was bluffing it, here is your proof.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Wow. That's how the universe shows up for you. I think everything that I've heard so far, somehow you've always been guided. Somehow you've always been protected. There is something looking after you. There is someone looking after you. And it's shown up for you just when you needed it.
Yeah, and when you will be in that state, when I say you, I mean everyone, you will start to reflect back upon your life and you will say exactly the same things. That you were being looked after, that somebody was looking out for you, somebody was protecting you. Again, go to the AAA awareness.
I got it. It was awareness, alignment, and anchoring.
Yeah. So as soon as people start to become aware and they will look back at their life and they'll realize how protected, how guided, how sheltered they all were. And so was I. No one is an exception.
What are we here to do? What are we all here to do?
To serve each other. In very simple, like there's no story to it, no analogy to it, in plain simple words. The purpose is to serve each other.
How can we be of service to each other?
You are already doing a service. Again, be aware of it, right? You're doing a service. You're recording this podcast, for example, while you're fulfilling your ambition of doing something for yourself. You are delivering that value, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. And to be honest, if listening to this podcast, one life changes, just one, or one part of one's life changes, it is all worth it.
How do we begin to envision a kinder, more compassionate world, in a world where there's climate change, there's genocide, we're destroying the environment, we are we're exploiting the planet as well, and harming ourselves in the process?
Yeah.
How do we bring love into this? How do we bring kindness into this? How do we tap into spirituality to change our future, or, you know, make this a utopia that we all want to live in harmoniously together?
You know, be the start of that change that you want to see in the world. Because it all starts at some place, right? Even when a tree becomes the mighty tree it is, it starts by sowing a single seed, right? And then giving it the right nourishment for it to thrive and grow, right? So it will all have to start with you, whether you like it or not. And, you know, everybody I talk to, the first question is, I don't matter. Or my view does not matter.
What can I do as an individual?
And if you say that, you've lost the battle. You've given up your arms before even entering the battlefield, right? And imagine if everybody starts to think like that, then that's the end of this universe, right? So my humble advice is, as righteous as it sounds, that's really the truth of it. That each one of us has to start to take the right steps for our own selves, and define that value that we spoke about, start to be aware of what's happening to us, surrender to life, find those anchors, and be that light for someone else, and always find value in serving others. Until the time, and I think to credit to you and the way this conversation flowed, and now that I'm kind of pulling it all together, it kind of has a beautiful narration to it, right?
It does.
And my humble ask to anybody who's listening to this podcast today is, start it with yourself. Just do that much to yourself. And you could be as selfish as you want and not think about anybody else. Just work upon yourself. But know that when you work upon yourself, you will eventually end up supporting and serving others. That's just the way it goes.
Thank you so much for being here today, Charul. I'm so grateful for your presence. I'm so grateful for your light. I'm so grateful for the love that I've felt throughout this conversation. And I know the light that shines in you is going to illuminate so many other lives. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And all of my love and support to the vision board that you have for 2024 as well.
Thank you.
And all the lives you're going to impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shreya. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you
you.
so much.